Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to share with you how I created these two Slimline birthday cards using some products from Simon Says Stamp. So let's get into it. I'm going to be using this stamp set from Simon Says called Blooming Meadow, and this is a really great stamp set for doing kind of like layered images. I'm going to be using some Distress Oxide inks. I don't end up using all of these colors, but you could choose any Oxide inks that you want to do this type of stamping, or you could use dye inks as well. I've got two card bases ready to go here using some Neenah 100-pound cardstock and some Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. I've also got a couple of dies from Simon as well. The first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to get all the stamping out of the way because I can't continue on with this card unless these panels are finished. So this was quite a long process. You could easily have just done one card, but I really liked the idea and I wanted to do two. I had seen Christina Warner use this stamp set. I'm not sure if it was last year or this year. I'll link it up in the iCard above, and she did something similar, but I think she used dye inks, and I really liked the idea or the style that she came up with, so I thought I would try it out. I'm just arranging the solid flower images. These are kind of like just the solid colors, and then there's also just line images, which you could use those as well and color them in with like Copics or colored markers. But I really like this kind of technique using the solid images and then using the outlines over top. And I am using candied apple, seedless preserves, mowed lawn, and spun sugar for my distress colors today. And I wanted to kind of do one that was a card that kind of cascaded down the side and then another one that kind of framed around the bottom. And like I said, this process took me, I'm going to say at least an hour. Well, maybe not an hour. That seems kind of extravagant, but it did take me quite a while just to arrange these and stamp both cards. Again, you could get away with just doing one card, but I really like this idea a lot, so I decided to do two. And I'm just going back and forth between the colors, and in order to get the leaves right, I would take the outline of the leaf shape and I'd kind of place it where I wanted it, and then I'd take the solid portion and I'd line it up as well. And this really helped me get things lined up so that whenever I'd go in with the outlines, I'd know where to place it. I'd have enough room for them. I did have a lot of fun making these cards. I've had this idea in my head for a while. After I'd seen Christina Warner do hers, I really wanted to give it a try. Her card turned out amazing. And so I want to give her the credit for coming up with this kind of style. I don't really know if it's a style or if this is just the way that the stamp set is supposed to be used, but I seen her do it and I was inspired, so I thought I would, like I said, give it a try, and it turned out great. I really like it. I did have a little helper come in and ask me about my colors, and he was asking me about what color was this and that, so it was a lot of fun to have him in there kind of explain some things to him. I'm only going to be showing the stamping of one of these panels because the process is the same on the other one. It's just I don't do the full panel, I only do a portion of it. Just to save a little bit of time in the video because the clips were quite long and I didn't want this video to stretch out too much. So that's the stamping of that panel, and then here's both panels all finished. I set them off to the side to dry just to make sure that ink was nice and dry. I hit it with my heat gun a little bit because we are going to be doing some heat embossing over top, and I want to make sure that that distress ink is really dry because it is like a pigment ink and it will hold on to embossing powder. And this is pretty just like this too. If you didn't want to do the outline and you wanted to kind of to be a little bit more like abstract, I think that would be really cool. You could do like a pattern paper with this. Maybe do it a little bit lighter, do like something like second generation stamping where it's really kind of pale or just use paler colors. I think that would be a really cool idea as well. So I'm going to get this put in my MISTI here. I tested it out and everything is nice and dry. And now I'm going to take the solid images and I'm going to line them up over top of these solid shapes. Now, if my head gets in the way, I do apologize. I just wanted to make sure these were lined up. Once they were lined up, I kind of tilted them a little bit off. I didn't want them to be perfectly lined up, kind of go with like that abstract-y, artsy kind of look. And I'm just using some Versamark ink as well as some Brutus Monroe Alabaster White Embossing Powder. And I really, really like how this turns out. The white really, really pops off of this craft cardstock. I bet this would look really cool on black as well, or a really dark cardstock, or even like a blue or something like that. I think it would be really neat because then the white would super pop off. And again, I'm just lining these up using the outline images. And again, you could just use these outlines and do some masking and really make a really pretty floral arrangements and color those in. I think that would be neat too. This is a really cool stamp set. There's lots of options with it. Lining up my leaves. And I wasn't too concerned about like if the leaves were touching the flowers or not. It kind of just goes with the style that I was going for. Get all these lined up here. Really like the way that this looked. This would be cool with like maybe some gold embossing powder as well. That'd be really elegant as well if you wanted to add a little bit of gold to it. I think that'd be a cool idea. Maybe just stick with like one color, like reds, and then add gold. I think that'd be neat. I might have to give that a try. Just getting that coated in the embossing powder. At the end of this card, I had embossing powder everywhere. I try my best to kind of keep it contained, but I still end up having it everywhere. It doesn't matter what I do. I still end up getting embossing powder all over the place. And you can see here that once that embossing powder heats up, it really pops against those colors and that craft cardstock. I just love the way this looks. So we're going to speed through this process here as well. Like I said, this is the longest part of this card process. Now, again, you could simplify it and just not do the outlines, or do the outlines and color them, or, you know, just do the outlines themselves and leave it at that. That would be really neat, maybe on black cardstock, and just do the outlines as an arrangement. See, this stamp set, I'm coming up with ideas as I do this. This is just great. I love a stamp set that you can come up with ideas as you work with it. So here you can see I've got the last panel here all embossed and ready to go. It was just the same process of stamping and heating up the elements, and I just love the way that these turned out. They're so pretty. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the dies. I'm going to use the Hugs die and the Happy Birthday die from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to cut them out of some Neenah 110-pound cardstock. I am not going to use the Happy portion from this die. I'm going to take the Happy from this Anita Jerem stamp set called Happy Day. I really liked the text in this. It kind of matched the die as well. I wanted to have a little bit of color, a little bit more color along with my sentiment. So I'm taking the Seedless Preserves ink pad and I'm just rubbing it against some of this Neenah cardstock. I don't have a cardstock this particular color, and I really wanted to add it to this one. So I rubbed it across this cardstock so I had a nice kind of coordinating color. This is a really nice thing to do if you don't have a particular cardstock that matches. I'm just lining that up inside my MISTI here, and I'm going to stamp and emboss it using the same Versamark ink and Bruce Monroe Alabaster White embossing powder. Use my anti-static powder tool. I made sure that this panel was really, really dry. And I'm just covering over the day portion of this, which is a scrap piece of paper. You could cut the stamp. I've seen a lot of people do that, but I don't really like to cut my stamps too much unless I have to. So there we go. I really think that this font matches the die really well. Now that my heat gun's all heated up from all that embossing, it takes no time at all to get that embossed. And now I'm going to go through this Mama Elephant Happy Birthday Sentiments stamp set and pick out a sentiment to go on my next card. My next card doesn't necessarily like scream a birthday card, but you could easily write this out as a birthday card. The sentiment I chose is May You Be Forever Young. That could just be like an encouragement card, or it could really be for anything. I just really like this sentiment. It reminds me of the Rod Stewart song Forever Young. I used to listen to it a lot when I was younger. Get those all heated up and set off to the side. So now we're going to go through and we're going to cut out all of our die cuts. Now I did two of each because I wanted to stack them up to give them a little bit of dimension, because these are all in all flat cards, one dimension minus a few elements here and there. I wanted to give it just a little bit of something. So again, I'm just using some Neenah 110-pound cardstock and cutting these dies out twice so that we can stack them up. And then this Hugs die comes with the kind of shadow element that goes around the text. And I'm just going to use some of this vellum here. This is just some heavyweight vellum. I don't know if I necessarily needed the vellum. I thought maybe I should do it because I wasn't exactly sure where I was going to place these sentiments. So I wanted to make sure that I had something behind this to make it stand out if necessary. And I'm just using some multimedia matte here to get these die cuts stacked up. I really like doing this with die cuts. I really think it adds some dimension. Now this birthday one comes in 3 sections, so you have to be careful that you don't lose any of these sections. They're not super fragile, but you just got to make sure you watch out. And I really, really like this font on this one. I think it's really fun. It's not like overly cutesy, but I think it just adds a little bit of something. Get those all glued together. And it's nice because you don't have to worry about that little tiny dot on the eye because they're all uppercase. I always end up losing the dot every time. Every time there's a dot, I lose it. So I have to like cut it out again or just go without. Just going to use that same multimedia matte to line that up over top of that vellum. And I'm just going to be using some flag banners from my MFT Blueprints 29 die set. You could use any flag banners. You could just cut strips out and cut flag ends in if you wanted to. It's completely up to you, or you could just leave them as strips. I like to use these because then I can flip them around and make the banners any size that I want. I've been doing this for quite a while. I know that there's lots of options and varieties out there of different sizes, but this works out for me. I don't have to worry about spending a lot of money on these types of dies either. Now that we have all of our elements together, we can finally start assembling these cards. And I thought about popping them up with some foam tape, but I opted out. I probably should have because I had some serious issues with all of my adhesive. My tape runner was working great. I was like, awesome. And then it ran out. And then I don't have any refills. So I just recently went and got some more. And then I tried using my Tombow glue and it was clogged and it just got a big glob on my card panel. And I got it sorted out so I could get this glued down, and I had glue everywhere. I was just struggling so hard with my adhesive. I don't know what was going on. Maybe I was just tired. I don't know. So here we go. We're going to get this ready to go, and I was really kind of deciding which card I wanted to be a landscape, which one I wanted to be a portrait, and I went with the Hugs on this kind of cascading one. I really like the way that looks, especially with that colored strip of sentiment there. I really think it adds to it. Again, you can't really see the vellum, but in real life you can see it pretty good. And then this birthday one, this other birthday one, I wanted to just kind of tuck the birthday down amongst the flowers. I think that looked really nice. And I wasn't too worried about all that empty space up top there because I think it didn't really take away from the card. I think it looked great. And then I'm just using some Darice 3M foam, or it's Darice foam strips to pop up these sentiment banners. And we're just about finished with these cards. I left the insides blank, so you could write a big greeting, you could write whatever you wanted in there. Now I'm taking some Nouveau crystal drops in Simply White, and I'm adding just a little bit more white detail. I really like the way that this looks. It really makes the rest of I think it really rounds out the card, really finishes them off. You could use a gel pen, or you could use embossing, whatever you want to do. I really like using these Nouveau drops because it adds a little bit more dimension to the cards. And I really, really like this. I was super thrilled with doing this. and they didn't take no time at all to dry because they were so small. And I'm going to take some Wink Stella and just go over top of the die cuts. And I think it really rounds them out. You know, I like a little bit of shimmer on my cards. I thought about adding some sequins, but I didn't want to push it with the adhesive today, so I just stuck with the die cuts. I noticed that I had a little bit of red on this Y. I'm not really sure where it came from, so I tried using this sand eraser to get it to come off, and it worked a little bit. Gonna do the same on the other card, and that will finish up these cards for today. I hope you liked the videos. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button as well as the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more videos here at my YouTube channel. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you guys again real soon. Bye! On screen, I've got a few videos that I think you'll enjoy. Consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more videos at my YouTube channel.